US and Chinese scientists have implanted human cells into monkey embryos.
He doesn't seem to mind that he has an ear growing on his back.
No, he knows he's here for a bigger purpose.
What two things are big, loud, hairy, smell like Parmesan cheese, and frequent the New York area? If you said Ray Romano and woolly mammoths, then you're correct. It all comes full circle. Starting off with an easy one for you today, and folks, it's one of my favorites. A creature that's been long extinct. Comedians and primetime family sitcoms. No, I'm just kidding. I'm talking about woolly mammoths, the large animals that once roamed the earth. Since these are so common, I thought it would be very fun to do a tale of the tape. Standing anywhere between 2.7 to 3 meters tall in the red corner, weighing in a full 6 tons, the beast from the east, woolly mammoth! Okay, well, they weren't just found in the east, but they were big and interesting creatures, especially since this is one of the few ancient species that we've ever interacted with. Having thick skin and fur made them difficult to hunt. It would take a few blows. However, if a smaller one was taken, it would make for a lasting meal. Interesting creatures.
Number 9. Glyptodon. Take an armadillo, size that bad boy up, give it a spicy tail, take away its ability to curl up in a ball, and make it stupid looking, and you've got the 10-foot long, 1-ton Glyptodon that lived 2 million to 10,000 years ago. Now, it would be easy to mistake this guy with a turtle or a tortoise, but it was in fact a mammal. It also had a soft underbelly that any predator able to flip over this walking Volkswagen Beetle would be able to exploit. These guys were native to South America, and like I said, they actually were around for a long time, living just past the last ice age. It's believed, like with most things, us humans had a not so small part to play in their disappearance from this world. We would hunt them for food and for their shells, which evidence says ancient man used as shelter from snow and rain.
Number 8, Titanoboa. I actually didn't know this one existed either. There's going to be a trend of large and scary animals here. Well, in the northeastern part of Colombia, a true beast lays still in the jungle, just waiting for a prey to dare come across its path. What would a Titanoboa do if prey came its way? Well, just like its smaller counterpart, it would constrict until you went for a big nap where you would then most likely be swallowed whole. Ugh. Well, at least that's what horror films would want you to think, as recent studies suggest they may have actually only had a diet of fish. If you've ever been on a school field trip to a zoo and got to pet the animals, the boa constrictor is always one of those animals. I don't know why, they always got one on hand, just in their pocket. It's weird. Wouldn't fit, but which I don't know why, because if you've ever felt the power of those muscles, well, it would be a very memorable field trip. Just try and imagine that upscaled by 10. I'm glad this one went extinct a long time ago. That's too big of a snake. Too much power. Too much.
Number 7. Basilosaurus. When I hear the word basil, I think of a lovely smelling herb. Or I think of old Basil, a kind old man, probably with white hair and a big bald spot and a mustache. Now, thanks to this video, I will think of a 65-foot long sea monster with a 3-foot head and a bite force as strong as a T-Rex. Whales have been around for a heck of a long time, and they have had many different ancestors and cousins. All of them were different levels of odd and terrifying. Basil here was one of the earliest identified ones. It was fairly different from its modern descendants, as you can tell from these pictures. It had a longer eel-like body with that tiny head. It only weighed about 10 tons, which is odd for a whale. Being the ancestor of whales, Basilosaurus is a marine mammal, but for a long time it was actually mistaken for a marine reptile, like the mosasaur, being given the nickname king lizard, which is doubly odd because it wasn't even the biggest whale species. That would be the Leviathan killer whale. I think I remember why I'm terrified of the sea, yeah.
Number 6, Sabertooth Tiger. What's scarier than a full-grown tiger? How about a fully grown tiger with teeth the size of Bowie knives? Wow. Sometimes nature is scary and makes me question reality. The saber-toothed tigers are one of those things. A saber-toothed tiger's diet consisted of large animals, so watch out woolly mammoth and maybe Ray Romano. Obviously most recognized for the protruding large canine teeth that sit outside the mouth even when closed, making for great puncture weapons, as if the large cats needed any more help hunting their prey. Coming into being around the same size as a large Siberian tiger, this is one hefty kitty, and one you wouldn't want to mess with. Fortunately for me and the club of extremely cute gentlemen who cannot run very fast, I do not have to worry about outrunning the speedy, beefy predator. Their extinction is connected to both climate change and a lack of food.
Number 5. The giant sloth. Megatherium is an extinct species of ground sloth. Locals to South America, they lived between the Pliocene through the Pleistocene eras. Basically like a really long time. Yeah, this thing was big and heavy as a modern day elephant, but like sloth form. This massive beast was first discovered in 1788 on the banks of Argentina. The bones, of course, not one. Megatherium became extinct around 12,000 years ago, thank gosh, during the Quaternary extinction event, which also claimed most other large mammals in the New World. The extinction coincides with early America's settlement and the kill sites where sloths were slaughtered. I tried. Suggesting that humans were out fist fighting these things, aiding in such extinction. Yeah, all of a sudden mammoths are like way less scary. I wonder if they moved as slow too, like a bear the size of an elephant moving in slow motion. So I just like throw it, it's like right here. Just be like, there.
Number 4. Tasmanian Tiger. Once native to Australia, of course the land of horrors, the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, was a massive carnivorous marsupial that went extinct around the 1930s. Thank the Lord. Major factors here are, as you guessed, climate change, hunting, and its genetic diversity wasn't all too great. Now it's sad on one hand because these beautiful creatures, also kind of terrifying, they disappeared so recently, but it's recent enough that we have a shot at bringing them back. Yeah, I'm just scaring you with this one. I'm like, it's terrifying, right? They're coming back 2024 in IMAX. Yeah, imagine looking outside and seeing this thing on your own front yard. Are we ready for this? I'm not. I've seen a moose once. Very scary, very scary. I was going 40 miles an hour. I was like, that's it. Specimens still remain preserved in jars. Yeah, thank God for those jars. I was wondering what that was in the fridge. A Tasmanian tibia. Nice, yum. In the science world, we already have some of the Tasmanian tiger genes present after scientists inserted them into a mouse fetus. Again, bold, but sure, they did it. One guy thought of that. How gross is that? The Australian Museum has been working hard to bring this beast back to life, only they're still lacking the DNA to fully recreate it. So if you have any jars of Tasmanian tiger parts, lend a helping hand for science, please.
Number 3. Dunkelostis, from Dunkel's bones, named after paleontologist David Dunkel, who discovered and studied the fossils. Ostis is Greek for bone, referring to the giant tectonic plates looking things that this thing is made up of. Being one of the largest and most powerful fish ever to swim in our waters, ever, these swimming tanks could eat pretty well anything it wanted, including other Dunkelostises. This thing was top dog. The first remains were discovered along Lake Erie cliffs. That's scary, that's like right over there. Dunkelostis could suck in and bite straight through any animal alive at the time, from the thick-shelled ammonites to the other placoderms with body armor. This thing was basically like the great-great-grandfather of any fish who eats other fish. They would even bite each other and dent their own armor. Their diet shifted from soft-bodied prey such as whales and sharks to larger armored prey such as placoderms. Basically it liked to eat the little crunchy stuff instead of the soft-bodied megalodons. What a sentence.
Number 2. The moa. This New Zealand bird went extinct about 600 years ago. See, moa, they were these flightless birds, massive, might I add, and archaeologists first discovered its fossil in a cave, just hidden in the very back, right in the depths. Its flesh and everything was still attached. See, these ancient birds would reach about 5 feet tall, and when you think of dinosaurs, you probably think that's quite petite in comparison, but no, listen up. The birds stopped flying right after the dinosaurs went extinct. According to biologist Matthew Phillips from the Australian National University of Canberra, once the dinosaurs off, they now had freedom. They could go outside without having to make any daring escapes, right? They weren't terrified every day to be lunch. They walked around, they got fat, and they hung out in caves. So it might seem a little depressing to watch a creature lose the ability to fly, but it's because they're eating good, you know? They're good problems, right? Scientists have recently discovered moa DNA from ancient eggshells, so there's a possibility we might see these fatties hit the skies once again. Let's keep them on Weight Watchers this time around, you know? Let's keep them in the sky, keep them.
Number 1. Eurypterid. Long story short, an ancient huge sea scorpion. That's it. I'm done. I'm done. No, I said no spiders, earwigs, and scorpions. No, that's it. An extinct group of arthropods that formed 470 million years ago, with 250 species of its own, the Euryptid is the most diverse Paleozoic class of its time. This is like the first of the creepy crawly stinger pincher things, you know? They declined in numbers and diversity until becoming extinct during the Triassic extinction event about 250 million years ago. Yeah, thank God. I can't even put a crayfish on a hook without squirming. Called sea scorpions, of course, because of two qualities. Being able to go in and out of water, and having two sets of lungs. Yeah, this thing's a fossil, right? This thing just got way more terrifying. They are the largest known arthropods ever to have lived on Earth, ranging anywhere between a foot and 4 feet big. That's a longboard, Taylor. A skateboard with claws and pinchers and a tail, in and out of the water. Alright, the animal kingdom. How beautiful.
Number 10, feel the music. There are many odd experiments in history where humans, should have left human elements out of it. Like music and illicit substances. I can't say what I want to say, but it's a bad substance that's white. There you go, paint the image in your head. There you go, we'll move around YouTube's algorithm. Back in 2011, a study was done where rats, or rather a bunch of rats, were all put in a room and on loop they played a Miles Davis song just over and over again. So they were all on said substances and they were in a room while Miles Davis played. This is a science experiment, may I add. Just smooth jazz for these rats all day long. Imagine walking into that room, you're like, what's going on in here? It's kind of fun, dare I say. Well, before the substances were injected into these test subjects, they all seemed to have calm demeanors while Beethoven was playing. But after injected, all the rats were neurologically triggered to that smooth jazz. They acted differently in a group setting, which is kind of weird. After a full week on the, not so great sauce, the rats were all of a sudden like, you know what? We love Miles Davis now. We changed our minds. So yeah, illicit substances changes how you listen to music apparently. If you're a rat, any rats watching, hit that thumbs up with your little rat hands. Number 9, the first pregnancy test. If you're looking past the ancient Egyptians and their use of barley and urine to determine if somebody's pregnant, you'll often land on this experiment from the 1930s. It's pretty close. It's heavily inspired. It was developed in 1931 by Maurice Friedman at the University of Pennsylvania Medical School. Now what would happen here is doctors would inject a rabbit with urine from a woman who was suspected of being pregnant, and the rabbit's ovaries could easily tell if that was the case. Accurate? Yes. Historical? Changes the game? Why, of course. Would it also end up with the rabbit passing away every single time? Yes. It's sad more often than not when humans are involved in any medical process, but we're trying to not do that anymore. We're doing pretty good. All those furs were like, nah, get out of here. Number 8, Kunga. Perhaps the earliest example of human-animal hybrid testing. Here we go. Scientists recently learned about this donkey hybrid that once roamed ancient Mesopotamia. This was a long time ago. This was before horses had even arrived to land, so they had to do something, right? They needed help pulling stuff. So large Kungas would step in and they would pull wagons, and smaller Kungas would help pulling plows. These little guys were the talk of the town. Imagine a hybrid animal before horses. No wonder they were a status symbol, come on. 4,000 years ago, they were given as gifts for weddings. Yummy, can you imagine that? I think it's a Kunga. It smells like a Kunga. I think it's definitely a Kunga. After so long, scientists are finally able to figure out what exactly a Kunga was a hybrid of. This whole time, it was a female donkey and a male Syrian wild ass. Put them together, what a wild time. It's wild what you still learn about ancient animal bones from thousands and thousands of years ago. More amazing how involved this hybrid was in Mesopotamian culture. I don't know, should we bring back the Kunga? Kind of neat. Kunga Uber? I would take those, hop in a little cart. Number 7, human cow eggs. Okay, we had a few giggles with that one. Time to get into some real dark science stuff. Back in 2008, hybrid research was being done. Human animal hybrid research obviously was being done because of course. The whole idea was to find a cure for Parkinson's disease. Now, I like these projects because we're moving forward at least, or we're trying to. We're trying to find a solution in some way, shape, or form, right? Road's gonna get a little dirty, but we'll figure it out. Otherwise, we don't need to be poking around cows, you know what I mean? Nobody needs 3 bowls of cereal before gym class anymore. Those days are over. There's other ways to wake up. I would do the beep test, I almost throw up every single day. Yeah, I would just have a full bowl of cereal and then just go to class and like play baseball all morning. It's like, geez. Scientists used the nucleus of a cow egg. They took it out and replaced that nucleus with that of human and skin cells. Add in a little time and the egg can now develop and turn into a blastocyst, aka a cloned embryo. And there we have stem cells for said science. Again, this is a lovely step, but how far do we go? How much DNA are we gonna mix before, things can go south? For example, like Number 6, monkey head transplant. Okay, here we go. The first ever successful monkey head transplant. Crazy that I'm saying that out loud. This was back in the early 1970s. I imagine some of your parents may have heard of this. I don't know, I bet it would be hard to forget. Ask them. Ask them in the middle of dinner when they're mid-bite. Ask them about the So, monkey head transplant from the 70s, just ruined dinner. American researcher Robert White, he pulled off the, otherwise impossible and a slow, tedious operation. See, White took the head of one monkey and then attached it to a already headless monkey. Add a little time and energy and some science and voila, this actually worked. Yeah, the monkey actually tried to bite one of the surgeons once it came to life, which, totally fair. I'd probably be a little upset too. Sadly, the monkey passed away 9 days later, but like I said, the fact this actually happened, one, is terrifying, and two, dare I say, it's miraculous. Some sci-fi stuff right here. We're moving heads, we're transferring heads for 9 business days. You're gross.
Number 5, the giant sloth. If all of your information about prehistoric giant ground sloths was gathered from watching the animated Ice Age movies, buckle up. For starters, some of these guys were as big as elephants and one of the biggest land mammals. Other versions were as big as oxen or bears. So these suckers were pretty beefy, which I'm sure Sid the Sloth would be happy to hear. They also mostly walked on all fours, although they probably did stand on their hind legs to reach the top of trees and possibly as a defensive tactic. Ice Age was somewhat correct about how they were a little odd. For example, they probably did actually waddle thanks to their giant feet. They also oddly had teeth on the sides of their mouths used for crushing plants. The giant ground sloths are unsurprisingly related to our modern day sloths, but also to anteaters and armadillos. They were mainly South American mammals, but had different versions all over the Americas from 35 million to 11,000 years ago, until around the time of the Ice Age.
Number 4, Gigantopithecus. Put your hands together if you wanna clap as I take you through this monkey rap. DK, Donkey Kong, you know what I'm saying? Great game. Although I never understood why his name is Donkey Kong. I digress. Why am I bringing up one of Nintendo's beloved mascots? Well, that's because I'm talking giant ape, baby. That's right. Gigantopithecus was a large ape that lived in Southeast Asia, some parts of China, and Vietnam. Coming in at a whopping 660 pounds, DK here would need to eat a lot of plants, which, judging by teeth and molars and other great apes, suggests he was a herbivore. At least I hope. I'm just gonna keep calling him DK because otherwise I'll be here all day with my dyslexia, but DK is most closely related to orangutans. However, 100,000 years ago, after some severe climate changes and food shortages, DK was no more, and it was game over.
Number 3, Terrorbird. Such a fitting name. This carnivorous bird became the top predator in South America after the dinosaurs went bye-bye. This bird had about 25 different species, ranging from 1 to 3 meters or 10 feet in height. That's a big bird! Some species could have been scavengers, but others, they were definitely apex predators. Some had big, strong, stout legs that were probably good for kicking prey or even crushing bones, with big curved claws or talons for stabby behavior. They had big skulls with bones that were fused together, unlike a lot of birds, which was probably useful for pecking things into the afterlife with their massive sharp beaks that were also likely useful for getting big, nasty, fleshy bites. Their closest living relatives in South America today take out their prey by picking it up and slamming it into the ground over and over and over and over again. So imagine that, but from a giant 10-foot angry ostrich with a giant beak. So yeah, Terrorbird. It's a good name.
Number 2, Giant Beaver. Yeah, my Aunt Flo used to have a bear-sized beaver. Too bad it ran away. Okay, all jokes aside, giant beavers, also known as castoroids. That's a strange name. First discovered in the very busy and important state of Ohio back in 1837, these fossils pop up anywhere from Toronto all the way down to Florida. Getting as large as 7 feet long and just shy of 300 pounds. This is a beaver whose dam you don't want to break. Despite how awesome the giant beavers were, they are now extinct, and despite the Hudson Bay companies or the dismay of French-Canadian fur trappers, the beaver went extinct thousands of years ago. Today we are unsure what made them go extinct. Some suggest hunting, but we're not even sure if they existed along early humans. All I know is that a tail on that bad boy would be very dangerous. Seriously, people don't think the beavers are dangerous, but you gotta be careful around them. And I salute the beaver, as it is Canada's national animal after all.
Number 1, Andrew Circus. And here we are, Andrew's ancient relative, the Andrew Circus. The name Andrew Circus was given as a dedication to Roy Chapman Andrews, who I share a last name with, so maybe I'm related too. Who can say? Andrew's such a unique name, isn't it? Which is fitting because this bad boy right here was unique. Its massive 3-foot skull was very similar to a wolf's skull, but its jaw and tooth structure made it more like a mesonychid, which are related to horses and deers, but also relatives to whales and hippos. It was a giant hoofed carnivore, like a mix between a pig and a wolf, but massive. It probably ate literally anything it could get its jaws around. It could have been anything from tinier mammals to plants and roots to giant herbivores related to rhinos. If I ran into a huge hoofed pig wolf capable of taking down rhinos, I'd just lay down and give up. Luckily, it lived 45 to 35 million years ago in Asia, specifically the area around and near modern-day Mongolia. And Andrewsarchus did not adapt well to the changing times and didn't last as long as other ancient creatures on this list. Just like Andrew, we're still trying to figure out exactly what kind of animal Andrewsarchus was.
Number 10, the walking worm. Okay, this was my nickname back in high school. Nice, good to be back. This one sounds nice. Earthworm Jim, Gumby, I got them all. Just a walking, lanky worm dude. Meet the Hallucigenia fortis, named by Simon Conway Morris back in 1979. Conway Morris named it Hallucigenia fortis because of its bizarre and dreamlike quality. Sure, art's subjective, I guess, to each their own. There were over 109 specimens of these strange aquatic creatures, and they ranged in size from half a centimeter to 3 centimeters long. Now, number 10 on our list, okay, gotta start small, not too large, and since it was an invertebrate, it lacked a spine. Just like me, no spine, you know, just all worm. Just all air, like an inflatable person. Defining features of the walking worm, as its name suggests, were these tentacles that protruded out from the body. It had spikes that it maybe and possibly probably walked on. How terrifying is that? And in 2015, scientists realized where its head was. Yeah, its real head. We thought a fossilized stain was its head for like 35 years, and then in 2015, we found its real head, and it looks like it's grinning almost, with 2 eyes. Dare I say worse than the stain? Let's stop looking.
Number 9, the Big Fin Squid. From the Magnapinidae family, the Big Fin Squid, or as I like to call it, this ocean alien with shoulders and elbows, belongs to a group of rarely seen cephalopods with a distinctive morphology, meaning that they're really weird looking and really rare. The first record of us catching and looking at this thing comes from 1907 in the Azores, but due to the damaged nature of the find, little information could be actually extracted. It just looked like a piece of wet crinoline pulled out of a lake. During the 80s, 5 specimens were found in the Atlantic and Pacific, so eventually the creature found a place amongst the books as its own species, entering the Magnapinidae, or squids. So it's not actually a squid, but like a third cousin. This thing looks like it crashed here on an asteroid, doesn't it? The arms are huge and held perpendicular to the body, creating the illusion of arms and elbows, giving it its trademark alien figure. Some of these things are longer than 10 meters too. That's like a school bus. These things are definitely living under the ice on Jupiter. I'm just gonna say it. I said it.
Number 8, giant dragonfly. Dragonflies are awesome. I have a dragonfly tattoo. I had to check which arm. That's awesome. Welcome to being 28, I guess. But these sticky lads are old school, okay? Dragonflies are sweet. They were the first winged insects to ever evolve 300 million years ago. Modern dragonflies have wingspans of only 2 to 5 inches, but ancient giant dragonflies, again, as their name suggests, well, their wingspan was 2 to 3 feet. They're a lot bigger and scarier and stickier. I hope they never come back to this size. Again, like I mentioned in part 1, it's that high oxygen level that does the body good. Yeah, the Paleozoic era had these beasts hovering around because, you know, the air was too good back then. Nearly all of their head is its eye, so you're f***ed in every angle, basically. The movie Dune, if you've seen this recently, great film. The ornithopters, they're engineered to fly like a dragonfly. This is based on real life science. Engineers in real life are studying dragonflies, their flight patterns right now with their wings. Just keep them small and we're good. Study away, keep them small, please.
Number 7, the Frilled Shark. Chlamydoslacus ingenius, aka the Frilled Shark, is the extinct species of shark that once swam our oceans. Thank gosh. Well, actually kinda still does. Oh. The frilled shark is considered a living fossil, not just its age and time spent surfing the coast, due to its primitive eel-like brown body. Its snake-like jaws, 8-foot body, and the way it moves under the water are all common in ancient serpents and water creatures. Yeah, this thing's a water dragon, basically. This thing's like an eel-serpent-shark hybrid. It swims the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, usually in deep, murky water. So am I just gonna like snorkel into one of these things any day now? Good thing is that these things are really hard to find. Like, really hard. Usually caught by accident in commercial fishing nets, usually at depths anywhere between 50 and 1,000 meters. So unless you're free diving at night and have a supersonic lung span, you should be okay.
Number 6, the gastric brooding frog. I'm a big fan of frogs, except for when they, you know, hatch out of their back. I don't like that. It's arguably the worst thing I've ever seen online, and I have read it, and have had read it for years. These frogs would swallow its egg back in the day, and then they would hatch them out of their mouth. If you watched it backwards, you'd be like, no, stop. They all went extinct back in 1983, but scientists have somehow figured out how to implant dead cells into a fresh egg from an entirely different frog species. So we may just see this fancy frog make a fancy comeback. Yeah, let's just hope these ones aren't born out of their backs. Do you want to see it? I feel like you want to see it. There it is. Enjoy. You asked for it. Thumbs up for this. You know, it's life. It's life. It's nature. Number 5. Monkey become human. This next one's a little less hands-on, so, you know, if you have food, now you can probably take a bite. It's probably safe for now. Back in 1931, psychologist Winthrop Kellogg, familiar name, he was curious. He sat up one night out of the blue and thought, you know what would happen if a monkey was raised with human beings? Would it end up like that, you know, monkey from MVP? Would it learn to play hockey for the local team? Or would operations go south quickly? The latter happened. Yeah, no hockeys are doing any, you know, crosses and deeks. It's all bad. When it comes to animals and science, it's pretty bad. It's nothing like the cinema. None of that shit happened at all. Kellogg instead brought a baby female chimp named Gua into his home. Yeah, this man raised the chimp as if it were another human being alongside his own human being son, Donald, which is just a wild time growing up. I'd rather you have an imaginary friend than a monkey as a friend. That's pretty dangerous. But they did everything together. They played, they went to bed, they did all their human stuff. The test was working, but it ended abruptly after Kellogg's son, Donald, started to make chimp noises. Yeah, and then everybody was like, you know what? Let's not do that. That was terrifying. Maybe chimps can't learn how to kickflip. Maybe instead humans just go backwards in evolution. So Gua was then released and no more human best friend. You know, back to, dare I say, normal. I always wanted a monkey best friend growing up. Now I don't. Now I really don't. Number 4, multidog. The multidog. Yeah, this is gross. This was back in the 50s when a Soviet scientist, Vladimir Demikov, created, well, a multi-headed dog. It's pretty easy. Time magazine covered it. Of course, this is again a feat in science, as disgusting as it is. The adult dog had a newborn grafted to its neck, so when it grew, it could somehow survive off the blood of the main, bigger dog. The body, for a lack of a better term. Gross. When observed, the puppy did have its own characteristics. It was playful as it growls, just as the other dog's characteristics would be. Now, it is a sad 1950s Soviet animal experiment, so of course that animal didn't survive a very long time. But crossbreeding experiments from hell, this is why we're here, you know what I mean? It's like that 3-headed dog from Harry Potter, you know what I mean? Cerberus, I think his name is, Cerberus. This, a little more terrifying, a little more jarring, I'd say, to look at. After you play Harry Potter chess, this thing pops out, you're like, ooh. Never mind, 0 points for Gryffindor. Number 3, lions. Back in the 1980s at the Chatbir Zoo in India, they started this experimental program where they would breed together a domestic lion, which is a bit smaller and has a less shaggy mane. They would breed that with an African lion in hopes that they would meet in the middle and be introduced to the wild and somehow help with the dwindling population of wild lions in India. Now on paper, this sounds like a great idea, dare I say, a step forward for the, you know, animals and the wild, but it wasn't. Nope, that's why we're here on this list. The zoo found 2 African lions that were being used in a circus, and then they brought them in to breed with their 2 Asiatic lions. Now when the cubs were born, it was clear this was already a mistake, as the cubs had severely weak back legs right off the hop. It wasn't looking good. They were having extreme trouble walking, and as they got older, their immune system started to fail. Now by 2000, they had bred more than 70 of these new hybrid lions, and it was too late, right? They'd finally decided to stop the program, and all the males were then given vasectomies in order to stop any further reproduction. But there were laws that prohibited them from killing any animals, so they were simply just waiting for them to die of natural causes, which, I mean, in this case doesn't really exist. But there's a dwindling population of lions. It's insane to me that they wasted 20 years doing this when they could have just, you know, simply bred the lions that they had with other lions. Probably harder than it sounds, but I mean, I don't know. What the f is this? New lions with like Bambi legs? That's way worse. Number 2, spider art. Nice. This is like Art Attack, but terrifying because I hate spiders. Before our number 1 spot, I have to mention NASA's 1995 spider test. They're a little cool, dare I say. When nature meets science, we often get jarring results, be it hybrid animals, clones, monkeys going on and off, you name it. Spiders, as fascinating as they already are, can be even more mysterious, especially when they're exposed to, how do I say this, mind-altering illicit substances. You got it? NASA wanted to determine the toxicity between all of these substances and what differences they may look like in real life. Now spiders are fascinating. We can see how they think and survive every day. You know, we see it up close. We walk through them and we go right in your face. But we never see them like this before. Caffeinated behavior is all over the place when it comes to their web. It doesn't look like a normal web at all. But with hallucinogens, it's the same shape of a web, but it's almost missing steps. I don't think any animal should also have coffee, you know, let alone hallucinogens. My God, no way. Also, I can't even have coffee. I'm crazy when I have coffee, let alone any of this shit. And finally, number 1, the mouse with an ear on its back. Yeah, the title says it all. I can say that and we could be done here, but I think I have to explain a bit more. If we ever reboot Stuart Little, this guy has to audition. Let's do it. A live action? Are you kidding me? He'd f it up. Back in 1997, this Vacanti mouse became the test subject to determine if scientists could grow cartilage using chondrocytes, aka cells from a cow. Well, it worked, and we're still talking about it. I'm still talking about it, obviously. I mean, look at this. Now, it all started when Joseph Vacanti, pediatric surgeon, he began designing human organs. Now, this was during a shortage. He wasn't just born and, you know, started to make ears like a serial killer. No, he was changing the medical game. And little did he know, he was about to change the science game as well. He constructed a regular looking ear, and he told his brother Chuck and his partner Bob to not bring up the fact that he attached said ear to a live mouse. Now, that's a pretty hard secret to keep, I imagine, so Chuck ended up spilling the beans. Now everybody knows, but at the same time, now we all know that cow cartilage can create cells, which is pretty good. That's pretty good science. Can grow ears. I want to Q-tip his ear back thing, you know what I mean?